And now, we've come to the portion of our show where we have to ask, what just happened? We can't believe it either, but let's take a look back at the insanity that was this week and look ahead to what will make us facepalm next week. This is What Just Happened on the Dean Obeidallah Show. Take it away, Dean.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live Friday, June 21st. And it's time, because the third hour on Friday, for What Just Happened. We look back at some of the craziness. We're going to try to have some humor, if possible. If at all possible, I'm not sure. But I have two great people with me to make that happen. First, Tina Dupuy is back. She guest hosts on this show and other shows. She's a journalist written for countless publications. She's working on some big project now. I'm not sure if we can talk about it or not.
Yeah, we can.
We can? All right. Tina, nice to see you again, my friend.
Tell me in the commercial break.
Right, there you go. Lovely to be here. Hi, Dean.
And on my right, the one and only New York Times writer, also very funny comedian, also on the Big Brown Show, July 28th, Sopan Deb. How are you, Sopan?
Very good. I was happy
That's
to be
not
here.
the mic. Put the microphone down like this. It doesn't work like that. Seriously. It's directional towards the front.
How's that?
No. Like, make it point. See how we're doing it all here, Sopan?
Oh, I see.
There we go.
I'm here.
Show's
I'm
over,
here,
folks. I'm
here.
done. Sopan, nice to see you.
I've never
I've
seen
never done
anybody
radio
do
before.
that to a microphone.
All right, so
Listen, I've got a face made for TV, you know.
Sopan's got a lot of stuff. He's got a book coming out. He's got things going.
Wow.
Everyone's got books.
Yeah.
I need a
Everyone
book.
with the words, you know? So many words here.
The words are going on. So let's talk about, Donald Trump this week, I got to start just with this. He kicked off his campaign. He's ready to take on Hillary. It is clear. And here, I got to play this clip because this is real. And I don't know if chutzpah is the right word. I don't even know what the word is. Here's clip number 7.
To Hillary and her aides after they set up an illegal server, destroyed evidence, deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails, exposed classified information, and turned the State Department into a pay-for-play cash machine.
What's the word? They're cheering lock her up. This is this week.
Yeah.
This is...
Look, I mean,
Lock her
nobody
up.
who likes Trump is actually current on anything, you know? I mean, it's not like they sit around, and the people who love him are not reading his tweets and going, wow, this guy's amazing. The people who love them are low information voters who decided that he's their guy, and they just don't want to ever rethink that decision because of like straight cognitive dissonance. They're good guys, he's a good guy, and they're just never going to talk about it again. It's how my grandparents were with Nixon.
They were? Like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, it's
Really?
like, you know, they just... He's an American president, and like just
That's
move
what
on.
it's gotta be.
Yep.
Sopan, the idea of lock her up when that in 2016, okay, that was his thing. Not only is it dated now, but look at the people who've been locked up. They're all around Donald Trump. His circle's gone to jail, from Paul Manafort to Rick Gates to Michael Flynn's going to jail. George Papadopoulos was in jail. To Roger Stone's about to go on trial. It's the Trump circle that's gone to jail or in jail right now or about to go to jail.
Yes, I have read the news, Dean. Yes,
That's what I'm saying.
thank
Like,
you.
What's going? Like, how
Don't
do you
yell
do,
at me.
How do you
What am I-
do this? How do the chanting of lock her up at this thing?
I've never seen you this amped up on a Friday.
I've been having some soda.
My man.
I've been that tonight. I had
Yeah.
three,
Yeah.
2.5
This
trolls.
is
call.
definitely a sugar high. This is.
We're going to war with Iran any moment. I'm just
He
going.
starts. He starts cussing in Yiddish. It's so weird.
What?
Why
You
are
asked
you
this question-
tongues.
keep this man off coke?
You asked this question before about what's going to be. I think what's going to be different about the 2020 rallies.
Anything?
No.
Nothing at all. Why?
Like,
change
let me put it this way.
crazy?
Okay, do you have like a classic rock musician that you really like?
A lot of classic.
Who's
rock.
your, like, if you could see a concert tomorrow, who'd you go see? Allman Brothers
Classic
or
rock- Nah, Journey.
Journey? Okay,
Fleetwood
listen,
Mac,
if you go see Journey,
Chicago.
If you go see Journey, okay, if
You
you
know, the
leave
whitest
without them
bands
playing,
ever. That's how when I was a white guy pre 11. That was the whitest bands ever. I just cited.
if you went to see a Journey concert and you left the Journey concert without hearing Open Arms and Don't Stop Believing, okay,
Don't stop believing. I'm upset.
Well, you're upset. You're upset.
I mean, Steve
right?
Perry's not there.
That's such a good point.
You're upset.
You're right. I want Don't Stop Believing.
Okay,
Yeah.
listen.
So lock her up
As someone who has personally, and I'm not joking, as someone who's personally been to hundreds of Donald Trump rallies. Okay,
Because
they're the hits.
Tell people why. Because
In 2016, I was a campaign embed for CBS that covered Donald Trump's rallies. I traveled with this campaign for a year and a half. if you leave, he would do things like, he's going to say, and who's going to pay for the wall? And the entire crowd, 10,000 people would yell, Mexico! And then he'd look at the crowd and say, it's so easy. It's so easy. No so question about it. And
it's
it
like
was
communion.
like,
It's not...
and he would say, he would do these things, and why wouldn't you lean into that if you're Donald Trump? That's much more interesting than getting into policy weeds. And, it tells you a lot about America and what they want out of their political candidates as much as it does about Trump, right? Yeah. And like the market value, if you believe in a free market, the free market tells you that Donald Trump going out there and saying, spurring locker up chants and all this stuff, that's what hits. That's what keeps them coming. The Wall Street Journal wrote a piece this week about a couple people that have been to almost 50 Trump rallies. Would you go to 50 Elizabeth Warren rallies no matter how much you love her? Okay. No, but why? What's the difference?
Because you're not in a cult if you like
it's
Elizabeth
not
Warren.
Journey.
Fine.
Okay, you know what I mean? It's not Journey.
But can I just say that it is different now, because there are now the Proud Boys and these Nazis out in the open during the daytime, right before Trump rallies, having walking around the streets with all of their swastikas in full display.
Can I push back?
Not
please.
Can
I push back?
White power stuff.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying that the reason I know about the white supremacists and that kind of stuff is because A, I went to so many of the rallies, and B, because I read Twitter. 80% of the country is not on Twitter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's true.
So.
Did you see white power?
Hold on, let me explain my point. My point is that if the average, human being does not know what you're talking about when you say that. The Proud Boys and, what does that mean? Who are the Proud Boys?
Right, but it is different than 2016. And I love that you bring this up, because I was just in Louisville and I had 4 conversations with 4 different people from different walks of life about President Trump, and not one of them said the word Trump. Like, they couldn't say it. They were like,
well, why couldn't they say it?
It was like they were seething to a point where they didn't want to have his name said out loud, and you just didn't hear about it. No one talked about it. No one. I was spending all my time talking to folks who lived there, and no one wanted to have his name like echo in their conversation.
Isn't part of that fatigue? Do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I don't mean whether they disagree or agree. I mean, just, I'm sure there are Trump supporters and Trump detractors, both who are fall into this Venn diagram of, we just don't want to talk about it. This is like, please keep me.
All I want to talk about.
Like my grandparents
Where
with
do I
Nixon.
fall in this Venn diagram? I'm like, let's just talk Trump.
Is there a masochism?
No, I also think you need time to break. I'd say to even listeners, there are times you have to take a step back. You got to recharge. It becomes overwhelming.
But don't you think, to both of you, don't you think that, I used to, when I was covering the campaign, I used to think to myself, well, you know what? You can't sit on the sidelines. I used to have very little sympathy for people that would be withdrawn for the political process, would not read up on issues. I didn't have much sympathy. And that used to be something that frustrated me. Yeah. Now, in 2019, after seeing what my mental health is like, because I'm plugged in as I am, and as I consume as much news as I do, can you blame those people that don't engage with the day-to-day news cycle and don't?
I have had the exact same thought, and I don't know if I'm jealous. I don't know if it's making me rethink my life decisions. But I have had that exact same thought, but just looking at people and knowing how close we are on the brink of war with Iran, 10 minutes apparently, and people walking on the street doing what they normally do and not being fazed whatsoever by it.
Yeah, like most of my friends probably are not aware of the Iran story.
Get out of here!
Wow.
Yeah, you're saying, but I don't think that's not abnormal. That's actually, I actually think people are busy.
Yes.
If you're an accountant, a teacher.
You're busy. The war. Who cares? Right? I don't know this thing. We're about to blow stuff up.
No.
This transcends
if there were troops being deployed on the ground in Iran, yeah, people would stand up and take notice. But I just
doesn't
think,
affect them. Even if he just bombed a few radar sites, it would not have affected them.
Right. Now, I will say, like, okay, on the one hand, it's like, okay, I have sympathy for the people that are like, I don't want to engage in the political process. It's too negative. There's too much about, rancor, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, the people that get to do that are coming from a position of privilege.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Right,
so, you don't, what's that JFK? You don't do it because it's easy, because you do it because it's hard.
Go to the moon.
If just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, and so I am not necessarily sure where I fall on that right now, given, I will say that the happiest people that I know in my life are people that aren't plugged in the way that the three of us are. Yeah. Okay. At the same time, they are also in positions of privilege that allow them to not.
Maybe
engage.
we're just unhappy people. I mean,
We could be.
Or
I know that.
But
That's not. There's no maybe about that.
But they're not the object of Trump's hate. I'm assuming that you're talking about white people. White dudes.
I would say,
They seem to
generally
be
speaking,
pretty chill these
I would say,
days.
generally speaking, the people that really aren't up on the news that are in my life.
Okay.
Donald Trump said this at his rally. This is a more serious thing, sort of predicting the future of what he might do, which is unthinkable. Who knows what he might do?
Americans. And yes, we are doing things that few others have even tried to do. We are making progress like nobody would believe. Wait till you see some of the things that you're going to be hearing about over the next 2 months. We believe.
You're never going to believe what they're going to do the next few months. The night before the rally, he tweets we're going to be deporting millions of people, and we just learned
He's
today.
lying because he can't do that.
Right, but we learned today that ICE is going to go, starting this weekend, in 10 different cities doing mass roundups. And you combine that with Trump yesterday saying, I think my base is strong. I'm not sure that ruby red will the red meat be in 2020. Like, how is there a word? How do you, on the color spectrum, what?
Can it only get worse in
I
2016?
think worse, like we can't even think about it. Like we have no idea how bad it's going to get.
I don't know. I can't. I didn't think that he was going to win in the first place. So I was one of those. I have no idea.
That's why I say we need a political version of Hannibal Lecter. That we can talk to him and say, like, what would you do? Because you're a psychopath.
What?
And he'll be like, what?
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. What?
We need a political version of Hannibal Lecter. We
I
go
thought-
in.
No,
and
flesh
he's
that out,
behind
When
the
you say a
cage.
political version of Hannibal, I have a completely different
Hannibal Lecter, and you go in and you
idea.
talk to him, and like, what is Trump going to do next? He's like, he's going to eat Nancy Pelosi's liver. I didn't see that coming, but that's plausible in the world.
What?
we live in.
Whoa.
And say, I want a total complete shutdown on all Muslims entering the country. And that person would win the nomination of a major party and win the presidency. I would say you're out of your mind. Or say Islam hates us.
But can I-
or say Mexico's sending rapists.
Well, here's the question.
And the list goes on and on and on.
But can we-
And these are on and I don't even mean Access Hollywood. I mean things he affirmatively said, not things we discovered about the guy.
Right.
And he still won, meaning nothing is out of bounds. So I'm not kidding when you say you need a psychopath or a sociopath to talk to, because Donald Trump is moved by one thing. What is good for Donald Trump in his own calculation? And nothing is off the table. And I don't say that, as I said on the show, to scare people. It's to prepare us for what we're going to go through.
I mean,
Please, Tina?
no, I
Make
did-
me better.
I,
Make it
well,
better.
look, I
Make it
don't.
better.
I think that trying to, wring our hands and figure out why someone who is so horrible in every way, won.
So you're a fan.
But like he didn't win. He lost the popular vote by 3 million. He got in on a technicality, and he really was able to exploit not just racism but misogyny. And there's no one easier to hate than Hillary Clinton if you don't like women.
I'm going to push back on you on the notion that quote unquote he didn't. No, just the notion.
No,
of,
I like how it's like, I'm going to push back. Like that's so nice.
Yeah, it's called civilized, dude.
As
on the
opposed
notion
to,
I know
like,
we're
no,
not
no,
into
you're
this
so wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's my Jersey guy.
the notion that he didn't win because he didn't win the popular vote, and the reason I push back on that for a couple of reasons. At the end of the day, 60 million people voted for him, and that's a lot, tens of millions more than I thought he was going to get. And
Right.
so,
But
hold
if you
on.
have a ham sandwich and you say it's a Republican, it's going to get 50 million votes. You know what I'm saying?
Did you think that 3 years ago? Because I didn't.
I did. Yeah.
So I guess because I was when when Ted Cruz, all these guys started announcing Ted Cruz, Huckabee, I was like, there's with the Tea or God, I can't remember now. And a guy that's voted Republican like 95, and he was getting primaried.
Right.
There's a certain orthodoxy that because the Tea Party that Republicans were being held to. Who was someone in Delaware? Or I can't remember. Like people like Christine O'Donnell were being elevated in those times. And so here comes Trump. A guy who was in favor of things like eminent domain, in favor of a bunch of going against a lot of Republican orthodoxy,
Abortion.
and he didn't. He shot to the top of the Republican field, and that is not something that I saw coming. And so.
So how did he do it?
It's always been his thing.
good for
He knows how
ratings
to
for
beat up the refs and how to manipulate the media, and that is
To your point,
all of it.
to your point of the media creation part of it, here's my big wonder for 2020 is if like all the networks start taking his rallies start to finish like they did in 2016. And like on one hand, it's like he's the president. You kind of have to. You know what I mean? Like, so what do you do?
Look what happened on the kickoff night, because I'm here watching all the screens. MS did not cover it at all. They put it in a teeny box for a little while. CNN covered it until the crowd started cheering CNN sucks, and they left after 5 or 6 minutes. And Fox covered it the whole time. And Fox people attacked CNN for not covering the whole rally. So it was interesting. We were all waiting for that because people call in. We believe executives and many people on TV want Trump to win, even if they hate him, but he's good for business and he objectively is good for business. People have gotten raises and bonuses and hired, and there'll be a contraction of the media market in the world of cable news if Trump loses, when he does lose.
Right.
And people are going to lose their job. This is real. This is not a game. So I have great fears. I was very happy to see MS did not cover it at all, and CNN covered only a handful of minutes. I wonder when he does normal rallies over time, what we see over the next year and a half, though.
And the thing is, like, but at the same time, as you get closer to the election, you know, as the electorate gets more interested in the election. Here's the thing: the three of us are interested in the election because this is what we do. Right. We have no hobbies or lives, or really, and I don't know why we have friends at this point. Yeah, we do. I mean, I don't.
You're my best friend.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is my hang.
You're the only people who talk.
Guys,
once a month.
It's Friday, 8:23 Eastern, and I'm here. I mean, come on.
But I have a
Love
question.
you too, my darling.
I have a question, Sopan. I'm not sure if this is instructive to us or not in our quest to defeat Donald Trump. You were out in the campaign trail to 2016. You saw an enormous amount of enthusiasm at the rallies, right? Yeah. Very enthusiastic. That's right. Correct?
Yeah.
Did you go to any Hillary rallies at all?
No.
I went to I
think I went to one or two. Yeah.
How would you compare the enthusiasm of the audience comparing the two?
If you go to any political rally, it seems very enthusiastic.
So
think about who goes to political rallies.
Okay.
Okay. Speech. There's no real value to being there in person to watch someone give a political speech. In the way there is value to seeing theater in person, seeing Hamilton live, or seeing, Journey live. Right.
Sure.
So if you go to a Bernie Sanders rally, or you go to Hillary Clinton, if you go to John Kasich, that's the wrong question, because it's the question of the type of rallies you're throwing. So Hillary Clinton was less interested as a candidate in doing big basketball arena-like rallies.
Okay.
So Trump would like doing one rally a week maybe at the Madison Square Garden, whereas Hillary Clinton would do more events, just smaller.
Okay.
So it's just a question of how their campaigns were designed to operate.
Right, but you're absolutely right. I was about 50 feet away from her when she accepted the nomination at the DNC, and it was if you were an alien who didn't know anything else about what was going on in that election, you would say the crowd was just obsessed with her and screaming their heads off.
You'd hope so at the DNC.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely. But you're right. It's like everyone, when you go to someone's show, it's the fans are going there to cheer on the person who's talking, and so you would find,
So I just don't know how much.
But they never did that for Kasich.
Right. Kasich is probably a bad example, but like for Trump,
he did win Manhattan. Kasich did in the primary.
Did he? I actually don't remember.
He did. Yeah, it wasn't. But Queens, his actual borough, Queens went for Trump. So
all right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about, I'm not sure, we have so much to talk about. Let's talk about Joe Biden, because that was something that really got a lot of calls last night. And I was surprised by the reaction, to be honest. I'll share it with you a little bit. We're going to talk about it. Let's come right back after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
You're listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obidala.
And welcome back to the Obi Dollar Show. We're live Friday, June 21st. It's our What Just Happened segment. We look back at some of the stories of the week. If possible, we try to make them funny. Generally, we can't do that, but we try. We got Sopan Deb and Tina Dupuy with us. So let's talk about the Joe Biden issue. You know, there's still some fallout going on. John Lewis came out and defended Joe Biden a short time ago, civil rights icon, member of Congress. And just to remind people, Joe Biden was out on the Upper East Side of Manhattan at a fundraiser here where the reporter spoke to him. He said, I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland and another Senator Talmadge, both segregationists. And Joe Biden said this weird thing with a Southern accent. He never called me boy. He always called me son. And
because he's a white guy. They don't call white guys boys. They call black boys boys.
To me, that made no sense whatsoever. And then adding a quote here, at least there was some civility. We got things done. We didn't agree on much of anything. We got things done. Let me just finish the quote here. But we got it finished. But today you look at each other as like you're the enemy, not the opposition. The enemy, we don't talk to each other anymore. So that's what he said. Obviously, Cory Booker pushed back really hard. And I want to play Kamala Harris. It's a short clip as well. Makes a really nice point. Clip number 5.
I have a great deal of respect for Vice President Biden. He's done very good work and he has served our country in a very noble way. But to coddle the reputations of segregationists, of people who, if they had their way, I would literally not be standing here as a member of the United States Senate, is, I think, it's misinformed and it's wrong.
Okay, before I play the Biden response to everything, what's your reaction, Tina, to this?
No, I don't like him. I think that he is way too old. I think his ideas are antiquated and he should retire. I think he should not be, it's like he had this weird, but there was the New York Times did an interview with all the candidates and he decided not to do it. And he's this front runner now, but I think that he's one of those people that he is tapping into the fantasy of the good old days about Democrats, and Democrats are so afraid that we're going to have, that Trump is basically going to take over and never leave office, that we want to go with someone safe. And, and he's, to me, he's Trump light. This guy doesn't know
Trump
light. I don't agree with that.
Yes, 3 strikes, you're out. His draconian, horrible laws in the 90s. I mean, we do not have an entire generation of black men because of those type of policies. They're gone. They have been taken away from their families and put in cages. You want to talk about putting babies in cages? That's what Joe Biden has basically did in the 90s.
That was a bipartisan bill that even African Americans.
He was also a champion of it.
But they were African American members of Congress who supported
and we can talk about them too. And I also don't want them to run for president.
But there's also community leaders that were African American because just like with Muslims and terrorists were preying on Muslims, 95% of victims of ISIS terrorists are Muslims. They're African Americans. When I read news stories from years ago, who were leaders of the community going, we need this bill because we are being killed by the bad people in our community. So now the difference, I think, an interesting point is Hillary Clinton came out and acknowledged the unintended consequences and apologized for it. Mm-hmm. Biden has continued to double down. To me, see, it's funny you say Trump light. First of all, Trump's never passed. He's only passed a criminal justice reform bill, not an incarceration bill. But Donald Trump, to me, is not defined by any policy. Donald Trump is defined by bigotry, racism, and sexism. That's how I define Donald Trump.
But if you listen to how Biden talked in the early 90s and what he said, I mean, I was watching a clip of him going off about how he wanted to punish and put in jail people who put on raves. We should just go after them. We should go after them. Right. Whatever we need to do to shut those guys down and lock them up. I mean, this is his policies are draconian. I know he smiles and he's a white guy and we like him, but that doesn't mean that his policies
the policy thing is fine. I mean,
awful.
We have 23 candidates,
and he used coded language that we all kind of accepted in the 90s as being, part of the course. And I think that he has not asked for forgiveness. I don't think he understands because I don't think that he's stuck in an era that is not right now.
And Sopan?
I think that the key difference between Joe Biden and some of the other candidates in the field is that Joe Biden wants to do his job within the system. Whereas, other candidates, Cory Booker or Kamala Harris, Warren. They want to kind of blow up the system.
Cory
That's
Booker
a
and
very
Kamala Harris.
interesting distinction.
Wait a second. Hang a second. Cory
So,
Booker
I mean,
and Kamala
Biden
Harris
essentially said that, right?
Wait a second. Cory Booker and Kamala Harris want to destroy this.
No, not destroy. Sorry, let me
No,
rephrase
I don't
that.
mean destroy.
Disrupt.
I don't mean you that way.
Disrupt is a better
disrupt.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
disrupt
Do
is a
No,
better word.
I get it. I get it. And you're not wrong.
You know,
I just want to hear you.
but
Cory
the rest
Booker,
thing, the
though-
next, but I want to hear the next thing.
I
that
like
you,
Cory
Okay,
Booker
but
a
I want to
great
hear
deal.
what he's.
Okay,
I was
go
like,
ahead.
But
that's
so
really-
Biden said that at the fundraiser.
Yeah.
When he was in front of these wealthy Wall Street guys, when he said, you know, we're going to need more from you, but it's not going to change your standard of living. You know, essentially, he was saying like he was buying into this notion of, you know,
Incremental change.
yeah.
white people in decline.
Whereas, I mean, if you remember, what was Obama's campaign slogan? Hope and change. Change. I'm going to disrupt the. I'm going to change the. Trump, same thing. I'm an outsider. I'm a businessman. Blah blah blah. How much did? One of the things I think that happened with Obama got into office is that he found out very quickly that, oh my goodness, there are a lot of constraints to the system. Yeah. Did Obama actually disrupt the system in the way that he said he was going to? Or did it end up, I actually have to be a lot more pragmatic than I initially intended? Yeah. And I think Biden is more cognizant of that. Does that fit in with the Democratic field that we have today? Does that fit in with what the kind of left base wants? I mean, for what it's worth, Biden is still the front runner. You know, and we are a bunch of people that are very plugged in that may be misreading what the people in Iowa, the power brokers actually want. But I think the key difference here is that Joe Biden doesn't want to disrupt the system. He wants to work within the system, and that's not the case.
He wants to talk about when the system worked.
Yeah,
and how we can make it work again.
How do we get bipartisanship in the Senate again? How do we get 70 votes on it? But
When you watch Biden in this campaign so far, and it's only been a short time, then you really understand why when he ran in 2008, and he only was in one
and late
state.
80s.
Yeah. Well, that one he dropped out before any voting.
From
but he
plagiarism,
ran in 2008, and in Iowa he got 0.9%, not even 1% of the vote in Iowa. And you understand why. He's not a great candidate. He's gotten better than he was serving as vice president, going around the world, and doing a lot more of not just public speaking, but I guess engaging with people. But he's not the great. Now, I think he's better. And I don't know that you talked about earlier, Sopan, how many are people really paying attention to the minutia of issues like this? So how many people, like in our bubble, people called last night, and I had African Americans who were younger to older, very upset with Joe Biden's comments. Very upset with Joe Biden's comments.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so let's for the sake of conversation, get past what Joe Biden said. Do you actually believe that Joe Biden is a fan of segregationists?
I believe that he is comfortable enough with segregationists to hang out with them.
Really,
and
he
to
could
talk
work
with them
with them that time.
and work with them.
I
think
he
that
definitely said that, right?
Well, right.
I mean,
it's not that he's not a racist. It's that he's fine with racists and he's not offended by racists. That's the distinction for me. It's like he's like, well, I don't have a racist bone in my body. I'm like, we're not talking about you. We're talking about your friends' bones and how racist those are.
Okay, and I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just curious.
Sure.
Let's say for the sake of conversation, Roy Moore wins the Alabama Senate race. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just for the sake of conversation.
Right.
And you know what? Multiple people have said, look, Doug Jones ran the perfect race. Okay. Roy Moore ran a terrible race. And Doug Jones barely won.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So you have to, on some level, think that at worst, the race is competitive. But let's say Roy Moore wins. Okay. Let's agree. This is a guy that I think said homosexuality should be illegal.
Yeah.
Muslims
he's a mall creeper.
Muslims
can't
be in elected office. I mean, the list goes on and on with him. Do you think if he was in the Senate, he's one of, X amount of votes. If you're Joe Biden in the Senate, is there no value to try to work with him on whatever you can? Which is, I think, a point he was making.
Right.
I'm asking.
Right. And that's a very good point. But he wasn't saying that. He was bragging about doing that. I mean, you do it and it's dirty and you don't like it and you hold your nose and you vote with these people, because I've worked in Capitol Hill and that's exactly what
So you didn't like that.
That is how the sausage gets made, and you have to talk to people you do not like. And there are tons of people who are in Capitol Hill that are repugnant humans.
AOC worked with Ted Cruz now.
Exactly. But what he did was he said, I'm cool with this, guys. Like, come on. Not only is he addressing a bunch of rich white people and saying, "Don't worry, I have your back," then he's saying,
Was
"You know
he
what,
saying he's cool
segregationists."
with it,
But
I would say this
he
is one
really
thing.
did.
What
He was
really, to me,
talking about his ability, and also, can I just point out that he's also he said in that same interview that he was always the one in the Obama administration that got sent to Capitol Hill to smooth things over. There's talk about something not to brag about. I was like, that was your job. That was the big failing of the Obama administration, is that Congress said no and just did nothing for 6 years.
Here's
To
the
me-
one.
I'm sorry,
One
go
quick
ahead,
thing. Here's very. I can understand making the point because he got pushed back before about I'm going to find bipartisanship. That's one thing. Why pick two segregationists? That was the weird thing. And I had people calling African Americans. One guy, Curtis, specifically called this a Dixie whistle. He goes, he is signaling to Southerners, not that he's on their side, but look, I'm not going to demonize you. We can work together. Don't worry about me. I'm that kind of guy. It's very odd. You could have picked Republicans, not Democrats, some Southern Democrats from Mississippi. You could have picked Republicans who were hyper-conservative and said, I couldn't work. These guys, we disagreed on everything, but we got things done. I just thought it was very curious, and curious might not be the right word, suspicious to pick those. And I don't think he's segregation. I don't think he's a racist at all. I do not think that. I wonder in his own calculations, and that was my point yesterday. The spectrum of it was just randomly the worst people he could think of, but he goes, these are the worst people in the world, and I could work with them to get something done. Or was it the more sinister? He chose those names on purpose.
I think that all of us are putting way more thought into what Joe Biden said than Joe Biden.
And that part, and that the third scenario, like he just said that. He's like, these guys are terrible.
He's a gaffe machine. That's what he does. He says dumb things, and
I think the core question, by the way, to be asked of Joe Biden is, let's buy his argument for the sake of conversation that, I'm a bridge builder to even the worst, political beliefs. I want to get the Senate working again. If you elect me, well, we're gonna make everything functional again for the sake of conversation.
Right.
Why will Republicans in the Senate be more receptive to a Biden administration than they were an Obama administration when he was vice president? Why would they be more?
It's a very good point.
I'm wondering, and maybe there's a better answer. I mean,
It's
what's
the fantasy.
What's the difference? And I can think of one, which is that Joe Biden's white, but you're Joe Biden, you can't say that.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the what's the big difference between a Biden administration and an Obama administration other than skin color? And that would require him to say, hey, Republicans are racist. They won't be when I'll be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the core question here, right? And I don't know that Joe Biden has to answer that question. Why they worked with Obama? Why they really worked with Obama?
I also think that we as a country feel like the default experience is always of the white male. Like a white male is like just a generic person, and we design things for the white male and think about the white male experience. And we have two parties who are fighting over getting white males to vote for them, and that like he feels that he's been around this system long enough to realize that he does have a neutrality because Republicans are very comfortable with white people.
All I could say, though, about the one thing about the signaling, and someone called about that, Curtis and others, I don't think, though, you could signal the people who really like white supremacy and racism, they're going to just stick with Trump. Like you subtly going like, hey,
it's a very good point.
I'm not going to demonize you. I don't like you, but I'm not going to demonize you. You got Trump who's celebrating you. So why would you ever come over? So that's the argument against that Biden was signaling. I'm not sure. Let's take a break. Come back. We'll play our game. Guess who said it? And you guys are really good at this game, so it's almost not fun to play. But we're going to do this when we come back on the DW Dallas
This
Show.
next segment is going to suck.
The Dallas Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
You're listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dino Bidala.
And welcome back. Dino Bidala Show. We're live Friday, June 21st. Sopan Deb, Tina Dupuy's here. And it's time for the game within the game, the show within the show. Hit it, my friend.
Now, it's time for America's newest game show sensation. Guess who's at it?
All right, you guys know the rules. Welcome to the game. I'm going to read you a quote from this week, give you 4 options. You try to get them wrong to make me feel better about my career choices. Here's the first one. At some points in the Middle East, no action looks like weakness, and weakness begets more attacks. Sean Hannity, Brian Kilmeade, Laura Ingraham, John Bolton.
Laura Ingraham.
At some points in the Middle East, no action looks like weakness, and weakness begets
I saw
more.
this. Okay.
Hannity, Kilmeade, or Ingraham, Bolton.
I
want
saw
it
this
to be
one.
Kilmeade.
I don't want to do it. Should I cheat? I mean,
Tell me. Oh, you
do
saw
it.
the answer of my
I'm
phone?
pretty sure it's Kilmeade, right?
Yes, you got it. What you saw on TV? Or you saw the answer?
I saw. No, I didn't see your answer. I saw.
I
it
saw
on
the
TV.
clip. That's good. That's what you should answer based on knowledge.
Every
Well-
morning I try to wake up and watch Fox.
Next one. About reparations. Here's a quote. As Trump always says, you don't get do-overs, no do-overs. That's it. About reparations yesterday, Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, Kellyanne Conway, a Klan Grandmaster of the Klan, somewhere random.
Grand Poobah Wizard.
Right.
I
Grand Wizard.
was shocked that this didn't get more attention.
I know. So you know who said it.
Yeah, I did.
Just go ahead.
It was Ingram.
Laura Ingraham said about reparations, folks, yesterday. You're right. This
We won, you lost.
But she didn't say it on the TV show. She said it on her podcast, and I think that's why. But about reparations, as Trump always says, you don't get do-overs, no do-overs. That's it. I don't even know what that means. But
I know the guy who. How many times did this guy filed for bankruptcy and there's no
7.
do-overs except for
Right.
when you're him?
Here's one on Joe Biden. Joe Biden did not praise the segregationists. That is a disingenuous take. He basically said sometimes in Congress, one has to work with terrible or downright racist folks to get things done. A, Simone Sanders. B, Barack Obama. C, Bernie Sanders. D, Hillary Clinton.
I have no idea.
Was that Simone?
Oh,
You
but
can't
what?
play this. You can't play this game with me. I'm sorry.
I know.
No,
it's
I-
very-
I-
I'm the worst
You're
guest
the
to have on
worst.
the show.
No,
I'm
because
so
you
sorry.
actually.
You know what? I'm gonna. Yeah, I feel like that. You ever see the movie The Incredibles?
It's actually fine that you get them right. It's fine. It shows that you read, you understand what's going on, and
no, I'm just.
No,
I'm
it's
not
really
proud
fun
of
to see you
this.
pout.
I'm not proud of this. This is
Well,
not-
you're smart. Enjoy your smartness. He's got brown privilege. It's bull- So, we're all going to know this next one. I'm not even going to do it, even though it was a good one by Matt, but I know it's one. Okay, via tweet. Here's a tweet. Resign. If you didn't know striking Iran will kill 150 people until it was almost too late, you're even more of an idiot than people think you are.
Kellyanne Conway's husband.
Do the country. Winner! George Conway.
I didn't know that one.
She's right. She got it right. All right. So there we end the music for the love of God. All right,
Dino, you're never gonna have me. You're never gonna have me
no,
on.
I want smart people on. I've had people on where it's embarrassing when they get every one wrong, and then you're rooting for them, like, please don't say B. And they go, and you're like, oh,
like
God.
those Jeopardy categories where not.
Yeah,
it's like a sports category.
exactly.
And now
You're like, oh.
What did we have? Last week we had some people who were like, they were so bad, and I felt bad. I'm like, oh, this is not fun for
Yeah,
any
which
of
one
us.
do you prefer? Do you prefer when the guests know the answers or when they don't know the answers?
Sort of like a middle. Because it's fun.
You want C
don't
students.
right? You don't
He
want.
wants all of his
No, I
guests to
want
be
B.
C students.
B
Passing
maybe
grade, C plus, B
here and there.
minus area. Okay.
Sopan, maybe, but no.
Yeah, there
all right,
you go.
we have about 5 minutes left. This is not a funny story at all. I'm just interested in how you think the media will take this seriously or not. So, E. Jean Carroll, who has written an advice column for Elle magazine since 1993, wrote an article in detail, and it's on Twitter now. I tweeted, I'll post on Facebook later, that not only was she sexually assaulted by Trump, she writes in detail that she was raped by Donald Trump. And she writes about, she wears the jacket she was wearing 25 years ago in the cover on New York Magazine, talking about he forced her, they were in a dressing room at Bergdorf, and she thought it was funny. He came in there, and at first they thought it was a joke, and they knew each other before this, and started kissing, and he said before you knew it, she was trying to push him off, and he took off his pants while he had his pants on, and tried to force his fingers around my private areas, thrust his penis halfway or completely, I'm not certain, inside of me. And she was trying to stamp on his foot, and she realized how big he was at that moment. He's 6'1", and she runs out of there. And she never went forward with this before. The White House said it's completely false, unrealistic. Trump put out a statement saying, I never met her. I have no idea who she is. And of course, there's a picture now of them together in 1987 with his wife. She was married at the time to a WABC reporter who was a well-known guy, John Johnson. So How do you think? I mean, I watched MS and CNN covered a little bit. How do you cover a story? 1993. This is a rape. This is not a groping. This is rape.
He's bragged about rape. I mean, he's bragged about sexual assault in there, and is it Marlon Maples or Ivana? Ivana he raped.
Ivana said that
and then she recanted.
Right.
But I mean that's the story of his fucked up hair, is that he wanted to get hair plugs, and he went to a place went to a doctor that Ivana had told him to go, and it was botched, and he lost a bunch of his hair, and so in his anger about his hair, he raped his wife and pulled out her hair during the rape, and then she recanted because she's terrified of him, because who wouldn't be?
Interesting. As someone in the media, how do you think this? By the way, you're now in sports. Sopan's now covering the NBA, which is kind of interesting. You went from politics.
I've had a bunch of
to culture.
Do you feel like that's an improvement?
Yes.
Okay.
No, in all seriousness,
so it really does feel like your editor loves you and you're moving up in the world.
When you guys watch like Sean Hannity at night or something, I'm not sure it's saying you, but when you read about it, I can turn the channel off.
And you can watch.
Yeah. Now, and that's not coming from a place of privilege, because I've definitely put in my time in terms of covering politics and thinking about this stuff. But I do have the option in a way that political commentators don't. To your question about this particular story, I won't say much other than I was surprised that didn't get more pickup. A sitting president accused of rape on the record on the cover of a major magazine.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
I mean, it's still going. I think
that
the Friday,
over the weekend.
Yeah, the Friday late. But it used to be how you buried news, and now it's how you get all of the shows on Sunday to talk about it.
But when Access Hollywood dropped, I remember exactly where I was.
Same.
I mean, that was just pure. I mean, insanity. I mean, there's just like I've never had seen anything like that, because we thought that night. A lot of us did. I didn't, but a bunch of people thought, okay, his campaign's over.
I did too. I watched.
I mean, in fact,
this is done.
remember Reince Priebus very famously said, "You got to step down. Mike Pence has got to take over." Okay. In this particular case, it doesn't feel like that.
No,
it doesn't feel.
And there's no video.
And when it comes to big stories, it what happens in the first, I think, in most cases, not all, in most cases, like that first 12 hours. If it doesn't take up, if it doesn't,
right? But we're talking. But when the Access Hollywood tape came out, he wasn't president. Now he is president, and there's also 70 Congress people who have come forward and said that they are for impeachment. But that's why it's like there's like this growing kind of movement against, or someone's going to get their balls in Congress.
We got to take a break. We'll come back I know we went so long in the first segment that everything else got crushed in there. We got to take a break. We're going to come back. I think this is going to get more press, but Sopan's right in a way that the way the news cycle, it doesn't explode. And this weekend's going to be the South Carolina fish fry with the candidates. This may not get the play it deserves. Let's take a break and come right back.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Your entire week's exhausting news broken down in one hilarious hour. What Just Happened is now live with Dean Obeidallah.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. So we have about a minute and a half. We've got the big debates Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday of next week coming up. I'll just ask you quickly, who do you think will be the big winner and who will be the big loser? And that would mean in terms of media coverage and elevating them. So any prediction?
Look, I gave Warren a lot of shit. I thought that she face planted on the Pocahontas thing. The DNA thing was an absolute disaster and that she should have fired her communications director. But you know what? She's come up. She's now won me over. She's going to
win the debate?
She's won me over. I'm
not talking about who you endorse. I'm talking about the debate on Wednesday and Thursday. Who do you think is going to stand out?
I think that she's going to shine. She's very good with the talking to
any
crowds
loser?
of people.
Quick thing, loser?
I hope it's Biden.
Okay. Sopan?
God.
There's no wrong answer. Just give me a quick one. Winner and loser of the entire 2 nights of debates.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm going to stay out of this one.
All right. So where can people follow you on Twitter?
I like his answer better.
Seconds?
Can I have that one?
No. I'm on Twitter at SopanDeb, SOPANDEB, and that's pretty much all you need to know about me.
That's
right now.
Sopan. And Tina?
Tina Dupuy. Last name D-U-P as in Paul, U-Y as in Yankee.
Thank you guys very much for coming in tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah. Drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. I'll be checking all weekend. Matt, thanks for a good week, my friend, and be back Monday. Have a great weekend. Be back here Monday night.